Hello and welcome. I'm very excited for today's guest speaker. We have Juliette Stapleton, and I love that she calls herself the Queen of Visibility because that resonated so much for me when I crossed paths with Juliette. And what I love is that she is an author like I am of a new book that just launched. And I think that's really how I noticed that she was a human design expert and enthusiast like me. Her name of the new book is On Marketing and Human Design. We're going to hear a lot about it today. And Juliette is also a 1-3 splenic projector. So welcome. Welcome to Juliette to this show. And we're so excited to have you. Also, you're from overseas, which is another thing that's very exciting for me. So thank you for being here at this hour.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. It's so funny that you mentioned that I call myself the Queen of Visibility. I didn't just wake up and started saying I'm the Queen of Visibility. Somebody called me this as not a joke, but sort of like in a loving way. And at that moment, I'm an online visibility strategist. One thing that I'm really good at is understanding, building the online presence, what first impressions, how to position yourself in a way, especially as a coach, that, immediately puts you above the rest, because when it comes to investment, people will open their wallets when you look like somebody, right? That's something that I kind of always got about the shiny cover. So I built a shiny cover. And when I was called the Queen of Visibility, I thought, you know what, that feels good. My body went, yes. And I completely changed all my branding and everything. And I just owned it. And I knew that it's a risk to take because sometimes you can present yourself as something and it just doesn't stick. It doesn't suit you. It's not your thing. But you can sometimes feel like this is your thing, and what could have been tacky on another person, it actually really fits. And side note, very funny, just last year I did a role archetype in terms of my dressing, how I dress, and the ruler came on top and it was so funny. I said, of course, I'm the Queen of Visibility. So yeah, so now I do call myself the Queen of Visibility.
That's awesome. Very awesome. So when we first met briefly, and really it was through social media, which I love that as a way of networking. I haven't told you, but I am a 4-6 generator. So connecting is important to me. But one of the things, two things that stood out was first, that you're a projector. And one thing that stood out was you had said, well, first I invited you to come, which is so important in a projector to receive the invitation. So you said yes, I appreciate that. And the second was I said, well, should we meet beforehand? And you said, well, I like my downtime and rest. Let's just meet a few minutes before. Like we didn't need to do all of the generator type things. And I appreciate that because we have a few projectors that are in this group. And so really they can resonate that their time is precious. So tell us a little bit more about your journey with human design or being a projector, anything you'd like to talk about.
Okay, I'm going to start with the online visibility journey because I've always been fascinated with the internet and specifically about connecting to the right people. I always found I was always an outsider, a kind of loner, and groups did not accept me no matter how I tried. Funnily enough, I just released a podcast episode with Lavina Archers, who is one of the top teachers in the International Human Design School. And on the podcast, she basically pointed out that in a penta, I would be always spat out. I am a lone wolf. And so this always kind of felt like this is me, but I couldn't find, there are people, obviously, even for a lone wolf, there are other people who you can really connect. They might not be in your geographical location. And that's where internet has become an amazing new world for me. And, I have been, my life is majorly online in a way, because all the people that I'm connected, except for my husband and my daughter, all the other people are online. And I am a lone wolf with no friends in the real life. That's just the way it is, and so with human design, what it gave me is a real permission to be me the way I am, to be me without blaming myself. And a huge disclaimer, it doesn't matter that I know that I shouldn't be blaming myself. Of course, there are moments in the day, or where you feel like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough, and I'm not doing this. The conditioning is always there, and it's probably always going to, because we're human and we're living on the material plane, and we're always, moving between the alignment and the conditioning. And it's okay, as long as we're intentional. So what human design, I came across human design in 2020, just before the pandemic. Somehow I got connected to a few people, and they were, talking about human design, and I jumped into the rabbit hole. Now, I'm a 1-3 projector. So 1-3 are big researchers. We're very intellectual, as in everything goes through the intellect, research, and processing the information. And sometimes with 1-3s, the information can come in, but the timing is wrong. And there is this rabbit hole, but you're not jumping into it. So that happens very, very often. But it was the right one for me. And I jumped into it. I think I went to Jovian Archives or mybodygraph.com, and I was listening. I upgraded to this first level where you can listen to RAS audios. I did not understand much of what he was saying consciously, but subconsciously I knew this is it for me. I knew that there was something that maybe this person doesn't know how to be clear. He hasn't studied the messaging the way
it's his gate of shock.
studied.
It was his gate of shock.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, it was shocking me in the right way. And I started as a projector. Our existential question is, who is the other? But we always want to know who we are, because we're so in the dark. And I remember I had to create, I bought a copy, and I wrote down things about me, everything that stood out and everything that I was listening and researching and everything. I wrote down, because I needed to see who am I from, kind of from the outside. And a lot of things made sense. A lot of things made me feel really validated in who I am and on my journey. And really then what happened is that I started trying to live by my, for example, splenic authority, which is the most important thing, is following your strategy and authority. Unless we want to work with human design, we don't really need to know much about all the other things, because they don't matter unless you're following your strategy and authority, and then you're activating all the gifts. That's the way I see it in the bottom line. And so I started following my splenic authority, and I realized that all my life, I really have been already, I felt like I'm halfway there when human design came into my life. I felt like my deconditioning process has already started, because I was so intentional, so aware about my body, my responses, my, just generally my life. It happened at around 2013, 2014. There was a big wake-up call. But human design, of all the other things that I've been researching and studying, that gave me the practical hands-on tools and a map to seeing, what's correct, what's incorrect. And I know later on, when I really dove into especially line 1 and being a projector, correctness is a real topic for us. It's a real thing. And for me, it goes to an extreme: correct person, incorrect person. A lot of procrastination. A lot of times when I'm not entering relationships is because I do not know if they're going to be correct or incorrect. There's this correctness is important. And so human design gave me this tool to know what's correct, what's incorrect, and all I had to do is tune in into my body and not override it with my thinking process, which is very busy. I have a defined head and ajna, so there is constant noise in my head. And so with that, I started experimenting, and because I'm a solopreneur, I grew my business from basically from a chair of my office. I do not do networking events. I already mentioned the lone wolf. So I am a person who does everything through their own, thing online. And I don't remember now why I started telling you about this, but it had to do something with, yes. So all I had to do is just feel the decisions in my body, and then I could connect to people. See, this is the thing what human design gives us. The human design gives us a map and a strategy. So as a projector, my strategy is wait for invitation. But it's so much more than this, because waiting for invitation, you have to kind of get your head around, what does it mean? It's not the surface level meaning. It's not just you have to every time be invited. If you are not making yourself available, nobody's there to see, recognize, and invite you. You have to make yourself available. And that's something that I just intuitively always knew. So the introvert and a lone wolf, my background, you mentioned that I'm from overseas. So I'm from Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia. where I am now currently, life just happened to for me to be here, but I lived 20 years in Ireland, and my business and my whole online visibility journey started in Ireland because it was such a misaligned, incorrect place for me. I did not connect to people. I did not connect to the culture, because, you know, what we know when we're not living in Ireland about it and what you then discover when you are living in there, it's two different worlds. So for me, it was like, oh my God, I was so disappointed, and I just couldn't connect, even though my husband was Irish, my daughter's Irish, you know, and I felt like there are people, there must be something out there, you know. So I spent 20 years in Ireland, and then I came back here to Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia. My husband, the Irishman, was the driving force. He brought me here, and now I'm here, and this is my correct place. This is the place where I am in my 4th year living here now. And it doesn't matter that I am from here. It's like a different era. I have an undefined G center. I have eras in my life and change personalities in a way, but that's a different era. But now I wake up every morning and I'm saying, this is it. This is the energy. This is correctness. And that helps me then show up, and that helps me run my business in a way. And I really started, here's the thing, I jump from one thing to another, but you will get inspired anyway. I know that for sure. So because I'm online all the time, my life is 15% personal life, and then 85% is online. Not that it's not my private details. I'm talking about, I'm creating content. I am collaborating, you know, I'm doing a lot of things for my business because it's my self-expression. It's really fulfilling. It's really cool. It just gives me all the social life I need. That's why there's so much of that. But because of this and human design, when I started experimenting with my authority and with my strategy, I straight away started experimenting in my business, because where else? That's where I meet people. And over the next year and a half, I really walked my talk. I slowed down to the point where it was really, really scary, that it felt like I am not doing anything. My background before I turned into human design was, I was specializing in Facebook organic marketing. That in essence is a lot of hustling, sending friend requests every day, you know, being like actively engaging with people, creating a lot of content that's just like posts and, you know, it's here today, gone tomorrow. There was so much hustle and launching and all this, the stress of that. And I really, really walked my talk. I said, I'm going to slow down so much. I am not going to do things that I am initiating and things that even maybe I will come back to understanding how to do them, for example, launches, but I have to stop. So I've rejiggled my business. I started offering human design and marketing reports, which, you know, as the more I went into human design, the more I could see I have such an extensive background working with coaches, especially coaches who are solopreneurs, just like us, right? Doing things on their own, not big corporate entities that have teams, that have resources. And traditional marketing, it doesn't work for people like us. It doesn't work. Most of the things we hear out there are either for bigger businesses or for businesses down the line. They're not for businesses right now where we need them. But yet we're sold these tactics and practices. We're trying our best to do them and they don't work. And so we get really frustrated, bitter, you know, angry, and we just don't get anywhere. And I saw that before I started experimenting with human design. My biggest problem was, why can my clients do something I tell them to do? But when I'm doing this, it's like I am standing on my throat. It's so horrible. You know, even sending friend requests on Facebook, it's not natural for me. I am not a sociable person. I don't come up to people. I don't go to, you know, I'm not a group person. So I'm very nice and likable, mind you, but it's not in my nature. So how can I do this online without feeling so icky about it? You know, so all these things, you know, all this hassle. So what then human design gave me is it explained. It said, oh, well, hang on a second, but this client that is doing so well messaging people, they're a manifesting generator, they have a lighter energy, they're like very vibrant, you know, you can see that even the way they're perceived is very different. Even when they try and offer advice, it's very different to you when you're a projector and you go like a tank on them and, you know, penetrate them without them inviting you to actually, you know, offer advice. and things like that. So some strategies you should not ever implement with your energy.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was a big eye opener. And this is why I started using this in my business. For about 9 months, I used it just for myself. And then I started, you couldn't stop me. I started talking about it with all my clients that I was guiding, and I could see people's faces changing. So I am an opener of the doors. I know Rao Ruhu means closer of the doors, right? Before I knew about that, before I found out what it means, I always said, I open doors. So if you come in and you see the wall and everybody says there's a door and you don't see the wall, you don't see the door, you talk to Juliette and Juliette will open the door and you'd be like, oh my God, this is what I've waited all my life. I have that gift. And so that's where I started using human design as actually something that I do for others, because the faces were changing. People were so inspired. And sometimes, of course, not everybody goes straight into action. But what I see is that when you go into action, when you really apply the principles, the strategy and authority in your business, and then when you understand your profile, because that's your brand, your profile is your brand, it's how people perceive you, it's how you perceive yourself, it's the cockroaches in your head, as I call them, it's things that you get hooked up on, and they stop you from showing up. So the fear of visibility, all these things, this is where you can really empower yourself to lean into what's natural to you and to act in a way that's natural for your aura. That's a strategy, right? And make decisions in a correct way. That's the authority. And things start shifting. And then, of course, I talk about it in the book. I started writing my book in November last year. And originally it was a real strategic thought. It was like, oh, I need to write a book because it's a really good visibility strategy for lead generation. I'm so transparent about this. But I started writing a book and I just put some blog posts that I wrote together. And my coach, I hired a coach for accountability, and she said, this is really weird and disjointed, and you need to really think about it. And I thought, oh, it's so much work. I don't like working so much. I'm a projector, guys. The last year and a half, I've been so laid back, almost horizontal. I can't believe how laid back I am, and my business is still growing. So I'm the sole provider for my family for over a decade. So if I don't do something, nobody does. But it's been working, right? So this stuff is real and it really works. You have to trust it though. And so I started writing a book, but then, Christmas came, and then my husband got very sick over just on the first day of this year. And he relapsed. He had cancer in 2017. That was my first springboard into the online visibility world, but unfortunately the cancer came back and we lost him over a really horrendous battle he had a brain cancer, so he was losing his mind. It was a really long, very painful goodbye, and he passed away on St. Patrick's Day this year. And I talk about it in this book because he was a splenic projector as well, and as his mind started playing tricks on him, what I've been observing is how the mental processes are getting confused, but the authority, the knowing, the intuition, it was there. So in the moments when he was lucid, which was sometimes because he had this refresh, like he could be really all there and everything is, we could have a deep conversation, but 30 minutes later, just something happened. And but during those moments, the amount of things that he said to me that were the right things and blessing me to, he told me not to even dare think about giving up this is where he saw the big future and everything. And so when he passed away, and obviously I took some time to grieve on my own, but then I had to heal. And for me, I have my sense in human design is action. I need to do something. So I went back into this book and I just poured everything that I think is vital for your marketing. So human design is such a huge, it's an ocean. It doesn't have a shallow end, right? But in order for anyone to use human design to make correct decisions, to really be aware of how they interact with people, what are they here to focus on? Like generators, like, what are you here to focus on? On you. Your existential question is, who am I? So in your business, it's not about what do they want to hear. It's about you showing up in enjoying and being satisfied with what you're doing. But traditional marketing doesn't teach us this. Traditional marketing says figure out them and then tell them what they want to hear. And that's very difficult. Majority of people are not designed to follow this kind of advice. And so, so I poured everything into the book, and I put it out there, and I made a call out into my audience, just to my list. I have a small list because I keep it correct, so a small list. And I said, will you join the Queen? And I was so overwhelmed by the amount of people who reached out and said, I will join the Queen. I want to be on board. I want to spread the word. And it was just really, it just felt like the right thing to do. Coincidentally as well, at the same time, I was recording a season of my podcast, Visibility by Design, which was also on hold. And, and I connected to Facebook's world's premier marketer, Mari Smith, who I followed like a fan from 2007. And then she sent us a newsletter. And in the newsletter, I found out she was into human design. She was studying to be an analyst. And it blew my mind because I always felt very, I followed, she inspired me. And then, wow, this person is also into human design. So I reached out to her like a fan and said, please come and be my guest. And she's a sacral generator. So she had a complete yes response. And we were chatting. She came to my podcast. And after I finished recording, as complete joke, she said something like, if you need anything ever, don't hesitate to reach out. And I said, yeah, sure. But, surely I'm not going to ask you to write a foreword for my new book. And Mari said, well, I'm a generator, right? I need a yes or no question. So ask me. And here I am sitting there, looking at my idol, Facebook marketing idol of many, many years, saying, Mari Smith, will you write a foreword for my book? And that ended up, it was a full body yes, ended up in the foreword here written by her. And it's really, really good introduction into what I wanted to say. And then also, as I was writing, I'm not a human design analyst, and I don't know if I ever want to be one, because I like using it without being conceptually defensive about it, and having, and I'm not saying it in any kind of way for anyone who is really, really deep into human design. It's just my own thing. I always feel like, I don't want to put myself in this box. I'm a 1-3. There will be a day when I want to pivot. And I'll have that as I'll just add it to the other tools that I have in my life, and there will be something else maybe, I don't know. But I have a feeling that this is what I'm born to do, is to open the door to human design to people in business and say to them in practical way, okay, here's your type. Here's a generator. You have this aura. The aura is designed like this, like a vortex. Stop reaching out. Stop focusing on other people. Focus on yourself and see what will be delivered to you. And, it's just a slight change of how you see things, but it creates this ripple effect that is so powerful. It changes your life forever. Yeah. And that was my goal. And I think I achieved it, because when I wrote it, when we put it all together and put it on Amazon, I felt like I had a baby, because it came out of me and then it was something else. So now I don't feel connected to the book, as because it's like its own entity. And the reason why I talked about that I'm not an analyst is because I didn't want to create a book that just gives you the basics of human design. There's plenty of books and they keep coming. But I wanted to really express my 1-3 profile and the branding language and the branding voice for 1-3 is really, it's like, here's what I see. Because it's about us consuming, and then getting to the bottom line and knowing where the fluff is, and then what is real and trustworthy. And so there was an epiphany one day, and I said, I'm going to call it On Marketing and Human Design. And this completely unrelated to a book photo shoot I had last year, fun photo shoot. And I had this picture, and I just felt like it just fell into place so well. So this is a beautiful book to bedazzle your shelf.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much for all of that history and your journey. I just want to mention too, like you said, your defined head and ajna and also throat. So I commend you for all the beautiful words that you share, because once the invitation's accepted, you just have so much wisdom and insight as a projector. So I want to go back to one thing, and then I think that it would be great if we could maybe have our attendees ask some questions about marketing, maybe related to their profile or their type, because you have so much. I've read your book, how beautiful it is to really say, just be who you are, because I have a marketing background as well. And I felt like there's a marketing formula that we've been teaching over the years. And now I've turned that around because everyone is unique. It really is based on your uniqueness. But I want to go back to one thing, because I also find it very important that we land on, before all the business, before all the accepting of invitations or doing opportunities or initiating, if you're a manifester, all the types share waiting and slowing down. And you touched on that a little bit. And I would love to just know, what did you do for self-care? Because we talk about that in this group a lot, that the self-care piece is the energy alignment, that slowing down and stepping away will help your business grow. So you mentioned a little bit of that. And can you just share a minute or two of like what you did as a projector, and what naturally worked for you?
I love this. I am not a kind of person for whom self-care is like, oh, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to journal for an hour and I'm going to meditate. Because I have a busy head, I don't, meditation, only selective things like visualizations and stuff, but I don't do that as a routine. I do that when I'm inspired. So one of the things that I have to mention, that years before human design, I came across this saying. I follow a cosmic guide who tells me every day about the cosmic forces and weather. Her name is Elizabeth Peru, and she's really, really wonderful. You're nodding. Do you know her? She is amazing. She is one of those very pure people in spiritual world who are so in integrity, and she's been doing this for 20 years. I've been a subscriber for her tip-off since 2014, and I attribute my personal growth to Elizabeth Peru a lot. So one of the things that she always was saying is to slow down to accelerate. So every day at 11:11, which is my favorite number, I have an alarm on my clock, on my phone, that says slow down to accelerate. And I take a moment to slow down. I think it started with this alarm. I have it probably from 2015. Other things that I started doing as a projector, and this was to do with human design, understanding that we're not here to hustle and that we need to rest and restore. It's actually a very difficult concept. I'm sure that projectors here will agree with me. It's a very difficult concept, what rest is for a projector, because sometimes we have very busy heads, or we're full of energy in our minds, or creative energy. But the problem is that we can sometimes have no physical energy. Now, I am a classic projector, so I don't have any motors in my body leading to my throat, or leading any motors at all. I only have a spleen below my throat. So if you're an energy projector, you will have a very different experience, maybe with the energy available to you, or if you have a will or a solar plexus or a root. I don't have any of them. So sometimes I have a lot of intention, but I physically don't have that energy. And what used to happen is that I used to force myself into doing and trying to put this inspiration down. But what I noticed is that it creates content, or it creates something that is just adding to the noise in the world. So those things that I created for my business or did in my life that were not done from the point of inspiration and available energy for it on those days, rare days, I should say, that I have it, it just doesn't matter. And big aha moment for me as a marketer, and with understanding of my projector nature, was to stop doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. Stop posting every day or creating posts every day on Facebook, which was my domain, Facebook personal profile, especially, not even Facebook page or ads. It was personal profile, so it's content heavy. Stop. If you're not feeling it, nobody will feel anything. It's just, you're just adding to that noise. And that was a very amazing permission. And I think that this is not just a projector thing. I think everybody should stop and think.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, because we are just adding to the noise unless we're inspired, unless there's something lit us up, unless, as a generator types responding to something, it's so, so important. Even sometimes manifestors, we say, manifestors can initiate. Sometimes they still need to wait. They need to wait for some clarity. They need to wait too. So this waiting thing was really, really interesting. And the self-care thing, I started allowing myself not to do. It was really, really scary. I thought that my business will break. And I was saying to my husband, that was, last year and the year before last, I was saying, oh my God, I'm not working. I have done 3 hours of work this week. And I'm not saying this is normal. This is not normal. We should work a little bit more than that, honestly, because, that's just an extreme. But I had to take myself there to see that actually that will give me space. So these days, if I get overwhelmed, which always happens, there will be something influences and you just feel overwhelmed. I will step back rather than try and push through. Most of the time I will step back, because as a projector, if I push through, I'm just going to end up in a burnout that will last for so long. And sometimes a projector downtime can last for weeks. I always joke, like, I just created a podcast or something, and then 3 weeks, nothing. So how can you run the business? How can you survive on this? And that's where the self-care comes in, being smart and working smart. And projectors are so good at systems, right? We're so good at efficiency because we don't have the energy to keep going all the time. So we have to be efficient. So for me, repurposing the content that I created, being smart about where's the good content that I create when I'm really inspired, where does it go to? Am I going to just post it on Facebook and forget about it? And then 3-4 days later, it disappeared from the newsfeed and nobody knows that you created this brilliant piece of content? No, I'm too selfish. Selfish marketing is what I promote, right? You have to be selfish about the efforts that you're putting in, because there's no point of hustling, because if you created something that's good, you need to make sure you leverage. So post it as a blog post on your website, create promotion for it on your social media. I use apps that allow me to post even on my personal profile on Facebook automatically, from a category of content pieces, not even that I have to schedule this. So I went and I created a system in my business that could support me when I'm
going to jump in and just say, I just heard an acronym for system. System stands for saving yourself some energy and time.
I love it.
Something like that, but saving yourself some energy, time, and maybe money. It's really something that's needed. So I'm glad that you're saying that. And I also resonate that this very much is not just applicable to projectors, definitely also manifestors, but I think generators, because we're overworking.
Totally. Oh my God, generators so overwork. And you know why? Because the generators, especially manifesting generators, are like jugglers, right? They're like too much to do at the same time, and it's great. It's great. You can do it. You have the capacity. But regular generator types sometimes are getting really hooked up on serving others. This is what I'm noticing. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying every generator does that, but this is the trend I noticed. And there is so focus goes so much on serving. That's where they're overdoing, to be liked, to do more for them. It's always on the others, but they need to bring the focus back within. And then they will see that, no, you don't have to do this. You do not, just because you're doing something that doesn't make someone like you more. And this whole conditioning with this, I have something flying in front of my face. The whole conditioning with this, it's only working against you. And I see that in generators I work with as a coach or as a mentor. I see that in my mom and my sister who are both generators. There's just too much. When the focus is within, actually, it's really healthy. It's really, really healthy for everybody else. Then you have this real satisfied, lovely generator with this huge aura, because generators have huge auras. There's a presence. You walk into the room, there is a frustrated generator. You feel it. You get affected with this. So it's so nice to be in a room with a generator who is satisfied and happy.
Yes, so true. Oh, I love that.
Selfish marketing and selfish life.
Yes, I love that tagline. So, selfish marketing. Let's talk about that. Let's maybe take some questions if folks have that in our next 10 minutes. and then we can wrap up. And definitely want to know where folks can find you, what you have going on. But would you like to take some questions?
Yes.
Now?
Here's the thing about a splenic projector. I know you didn't have a question, but maybe I could just for a couple of minutes share my marketing as a splenic projector. One of the things as a splenic authority person that's very difficult to do is to really implement what you're planning. So I plan a lot. Projectors are very good at planning and, you know, creating systems. So I do a lot of like writing down, but one thing I had to let go of, and I do have to say I have a completely open will center. So I'm not even born to, you know, fulfill my promises and you know, commitments and all that, which was, I'm going to mention another thing about this a little later. But as a splenic person, it's very difficult to plan. For me, it's very difficult to plan. For example, when will I have the launch for my mentorship group? I have a program that is a kind of like, it's a private mentorship, but we also have a group that we do some things together as a group. And I can't plan it. I can't just say, okay, September, I'm going to have this launch, because September comes and life changes. You're living so much in the moment. This is what I saw in my husband on his last days, life in the moment and being present in that moment and honoring that, you know, even though you said something yesterday, if it might not be true to you today, if you were invited into something yesterday, it doesn't mean that this invitation is still true today. Those were huge eye-openers for me in my business and how I run my business and how I am in my business, and also in a way how I set the boundaries in my business, because that means this whole thing means I need flexibility. And flexibility is one of the top values. This is why I decided to do the business online. It suits my lone wolf nature, but it's also flexible, right? I could be anywhere in the world. I moved from Ireland to here in Estonia in the middle of the pandemic. My business didn't stop for a second because it didn't need to, you know, it's just there online. And so, you know, flexibility is so important. So you set up boundaries in terms of allowing yourself this flexibility. You know, all my clients know that there could be a very, very last notice call request to move or cancel, or not cancel, but always move. I'll always accommodate the same thing with them. But I need flexibility. You can't hold me on I have almost no tribal energy. You cannot be saying to me, there was an agreement, there was a bargain, you know, I did this, why you're not doing this? You know, and I have to explain to people that not everybody has that. You know, you didn't tell me you expected this from me anyway, so. But it's interesting. And with the will center, the same thing. I can't, for example, set myself a goal. Okay, here's a launch. I want to have 10 people join this month. I can't do that. This is the recipe to paralyze and do nothing. I have to almost not care about attracting clients in order for them to attract clients. So instead of sitting and wondering where my clients are coming from, I'm taking that mental energy and I'm putting them into creating content and expressing what I see and really leaning into that, you know, the brand voice that I have, which also changed everything. May I just for 5 seconds talk about the brand voice and the profile, because this is the most fascinating thing. When you really understand the two lines, especially in the book, I touch on every line of the profile. Obviously, the book is only giving you a surface level. I have the marketing blueprints by design reports, and I go really deep, especially into the first line of your profile, because this is where the fears of visibility, you know, all this, I call them cockroaches in your head, you know, they're there, they're small, they're not really going to attack you or bite you or anything like that, but they're disgusting and you just can't walk into that room with that cockroach, right? This is why they are like this. They're the fears of visibility. Mine is line 1. First is imposter syndrome. Who are you to talk about human design? You know, I don't care about certifications, but you're not certified. The thought that is coming into my head. And my other side says, but you don't care about certifications. I never cared about certifications. And yet it's there. So these are the things to notice, you know. Or one of the things is like, you need to do webinars and you need to do slides. And I hate doing slides and teaching something, you know, but I'm really good at telling people what I see, because it's my natural brand voice. Because line 1 is here to research, process, and share. There's a crack here, there's a crack here, this doesn't work. And especially if you have a 3 as a second line, this doesn't work because you jump into all the rabbit holes and you try firsthand everything, and it really helped to understand your profile and what is this profile's natural voice and really get it. And that allowed me, even the title of the book, as I mentioned, On Marketing and Human Design, contemplations, insights, personal stories, personal what I see perspectives. So I don't care now that the whole world can turn around and say, who are you to talk about marketing? Who are you to talk about human design? I can say, well, I am Juliette Stapleton, and this is what I see.
Yes.
And that is so empowering that you can do that. And the understanding of the profile lines gave me this power. And it really, it created everything in my business. And it changed when I started creating content from that voice, not teaching, forget about the slides and webinars and all that, just doing, and through that you teach. We have to let go and trim the fat, because not everything we do is essential. So how can we do things that don't bother us doing and that are essential? And I think that when we trim that to just doing things that we can do, that they don't cause negative emotions and frustration, we will do more. We will do more.
Thank you so much, Juliette. I know we could go on, but I need to wrap up, and I want to ask in this end minute or two, how folks can find you. Do you have anything going on that you'd like to point them to check out any programs? And of course, we will put some notes along with the video, like a link to your website and such. So anything that you'd like to announce?
No, thank you so much. Well, you can find me on juliettestapleton.com. I think the first step is definitely order a book. If you want to have it, as we mentioned, the paperback is only $11 US dollars. But if you want a Kindle, it's like something like $2, $2.22, I think it is, because I was also intentional with that. But that's the first step. And in terms of the programs or anything, I think the best next step, whether you are really knowledgeable about human design or not, you could order my Marketing Blueprint by Design report, which is about 40 to 50 pages, depending on, where we go deeper. We go deeper into profile, we go deeper into the channels and the openness you have, to give you ideas for messaging, because this is not what makes or breaks the game. Following a strategy and authority definitely does, and understanding your profile. But I'm also a big geek on definition, environment, motivation, cognition, and determination, because they give us slight little things. As an example, quick example, I'll give you my cognition is taste. As a splenic projector, the metallic taste always tells me that something is wrong. I don't know, Jennifer, if you have the same thing, but it's very common among splenic projectors to have this metallic thing when something's wrong. But the taste. So things have to be sweet to me. If I feel like they're sweet, it's great. But there's other people who have a cognition maybe of smell, and they're like, ooh, something's off. Something's off. And how good it is to have these little things indicating the correctness. So you're not only physically trying to see, where is the sacral response or anything, but there's these other little things. And I'm a big geek on that. So I added to the report too.
And they can find the report on your website, yes?
On my website, yes. Okay. It's kind of like everywhere. Right. And that's the only next step for strangers to come in. So then we can meet, then we can see if we're correct for each other, and then we can take it from there.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. We should have you back one day soon to even hear more. So thank you.